You know the drill. Another vendor needs access, so you click through the same invitation wizard. Then legal asks for a full guest inventory, and you are digging through the admin center, account by account, trying to figure out who is still active. It is slow, manual, and you never feel fully in control. We are going to make all of that one script. By the end, you will have a working process that invites guests, audits your trust settings, and hands you a clean list of stale accounts ready for removal. You're learning to govern guest users and audit trust settings. If you want to take that further, this course shows how to build AI agents that automate Microsoft 365 administration. It covers agent development with Microsoft Graph, Python, and Azure AI, and includes hands-on labs in a capstone project where you design a multi-agent administration platform. We start by building a non-human identity so our scripts can sign in without us, which is what makes any of this schedulable. First, you invite a new vendor guest using Connect MG Graph and new MG invitation. Next, you confirm that invitation landed correctly by pairing new MG invitation with Get MG User. Then you inventory every guest account in the tenant with Get MG User and select Object. We move into reviewing cross-tenant access trust settings through Get MG Policy Cross-Tenant Access Policy Default and Get MG Policy Cross-Tenant Access Policy Partner. You also check the tenant restrictions policy using the same default template and select Object. Finally, you find stale guests by their sign-in activity, flagging them with getDate, getMGUser, where Object, and exporting the results with Export CSV. You walk away with a complete set of scripts you can run on any Microsoft 365 tenant. Before any of this can be automated, the tenant needs an identity that a script can sign in as. We build that in code, because a course about automation should not start by asking you to click through a portal. By the end of this section, you will have an app registration, a service principal, and a connection that needs no human at all. We start by installing the Microsoft Graph module for the current user. This gives us the templates the course needs without requiring local admin rights. We connect interactively with just two scopes. Application read-write all lets us register the app, and app role assignment read-write all lets us grant consent. We never ask for broader directory write permissions. We look up the exact permission IDs from the Graph service principal by name. User read-write all lets us read and update guest users. Policy read all lets us audit cross-tenant trust settings. User invite all lets us send invitations. We never guess a GUID. A service principal is the identity the app uses inside our tenant. Creating it here means the app exists as a security object we can assign permissions to. We add a client secret so the script can authenticate without a person clicking a consent dialog. In production, you would use a certificate instead, because a secret is just a string that can leak and it expires silently. We grant admin consent for each permission individually, then connect as the service principal. This unattended connection is the foundation every lab script will build on. No more interactive logins. The first welcome confirms our interactive connection. New MG application returns the app's display name, client ID, and object ID. Add MG application password outputs the secret text. We capture it immediately because it will never be shown again. The final welcome confirms we are now connected as the service principal, ready for unattended automation. When you bring an external vendor into your Microsoft 365 tenant, a simple share link isn't enough. You need a governed, trackable guest account. This step solves that by sending a proper B2B invitation, which gives the guest their own object in your directory and lets you manage access with policies, not just permissions on a single file. We're choosing an emailed invite because Jamie is a real person who needs to click through consent, and will include a redirect URL straight to the project site so the first experience is seamless. A custom message also builds trust and reduces the chance it gets ignored as phishing. Watch for the invitation object that comes back. It proves the guest was created and gives you the redemption link and the new object ID. Let's run it. We'll connect to Microsoft Graph with the right scopes, then call new MG invitation. The command will return an invitation object showing Jamie's email, a redeem URL, and the new guest user's ID, all in one response. First, connect MG Graph requests the scopes user.invite.all to create invitations and directory.read.all to read the resulting user. Then new MG invitation takes Jamie's email, sets the redirect URL to the Project Atlas SharePoint site, and uses the send invitation message switch so an email actually goes out. The invited user message info parameter carries a custom message body explaining the link and the 90-day expiration, which aligns with our vendor policy. The output confirms exactly what the theory predicted. We see Jamie's email, a long redemption URL they'll click, and an invited user object with a real GUID. That object is now in our directory as a guest, enabled but in pending acceptance state. And notice the pitfall, the auto-generated user principal name is already visible here, but you'd never guess it on your own. Always capture the ID from this response for future lookups. Sending an invitation is just the first half of the job. A typo in the email address or a misconfigured redirect can still return a success response, so you never trust the invite let alone. Pulling the guest object back by its ID lets you confirm the user type, the external user state, and that the mail property matches exactly what you intended. Right now, pending acceptance is expected. It simply means the vendor hasn't clicked the redemption link yet. While you're here, this is the moment to attach a sponsor or an expiration note, because Entra ID won't remember why this guest was created 6 months from now. Watch for those 3 fields, and then we'll tag the account so the cleanup step later has something to act on. We'll store the invitation result in a variable, then immediately pull the new guest back using the ID it returned. The output will show user type as guest, external user state as pending acceptance, and the vendor's exact email address. First, new MG invitation sends the invite to j.romero.contosodesignpartners.com with a redirect to the Project Atlas SharePoint site. The send invitation message switch ensures the email actually goes out. We capture the whole result in invite. Then getMGUser uses the invited user.id from that object to fetch the guest, and we ask specifically for display name, mail, user type, external user state, and created date time so we see only what matters. Here's our confirmation. User type is guest, mail matches the vendor address exactly, and external user state is pending acceptance, exactly what we expect before the link is redeemed. If this still said pending acceptance 6 months from now with 0 sign-ins, that would be a stale account worth cleaning up, but today it's perfectly normal. When you move from onboarding to compliance, the first job is a complete inventory. A plain getMGUser call without filtering will mix members and guests and silently return only the first page, usually 100 records. In a tenant with thousands of users, that gives you a dangerously incomplete picture. By filtering server-side on user type EQ guest and using the all switch, you force Graph to return every matching object, no matter how many pages. You also have to ask for created datetime explicitly because Graph doesn't include it by default, and without it you can't sort by account age. In a moment, you'll run a command that pulls every guest, sorted oldest first, so the stale contractor accounts rise right to the top. You're about to run getMGUser with a filter for guests, the all switch, and a property list that includes created datetime. The output will be a table sorted oldest first, with the new Contoso Design Partners invite at the very bottom. We start with getMGUser and a filter string that sets user type equal to guest. The all switch tells the comblet to follow every page of results so we don't get a truncated list. Then property specifies exactly which fields we want back: ID, display name, mail, created datetime, and external user state. We pipe that into select object to keep just the human readable columns, and finally sort object on created datetime to put the oldest accounts first. The table shows every guest in the directory, sorted oldest first. The 3 contractor accounts from early 2024 are right at the top, those are the ones the compliance review flagged. At the bottom, the brand new Contoso Design Partners invite appears with a pending acceptance state, exactly where it should be. Because we used all, you're seeing the complete list, not just the first page, so you can trust this inventory when you start the cleanup. Leadership assumes MFA is enforced for every guest, but that assumption lives in a policy that has 2 layers: a default that covers everyone, and partner-specific overrides that can silently punch holes for individual tenants. If you only check the default, you might miss a permissive override left behind for a vendor years ago. In this step, you'll pull the org-wide default to see whether MFA and compliant device claims are trusted, then enumerate every partner override to confirm nothing is overriding those settings for Contoso design partners. Watch for the inbound trust fields, they tell you exactly what claims are being honored. I'll run 2 commands, one to read the default cross-tenant access policy, and one to list every partner-specific override. The output will show whether MFA is trusted by default and whether the vendor's tenant has its own entry. First, get MG policy cross-tenant access policy default retrieves the default policy and pipes it to select object, pulling inbound trust, B2B collaboration inbound, and B2B collaboration outbound, the 3 sections that govern trust and collaboration settings. Then, get MG policy cross-tenant access policy partner with the all switch lists every partner override, selecting tenant ID, B2B collaboration inbound, and inbound trust so we can spot any tenant-specific exceptions. The default policy shows both is MFA accepted and is compliant device accepted are false, so by default, the tenant does not trust MFA or device claims from external tenants. But look at the partner list. There is one override for a tenant ID that is not Contoso design partners, and its inbound trust has is MFA accepted set to true. That is exactly the pitfall. If you had only checked the default, you'd think MFA was never trusted, but this one partner is getting a pass. Since Contoso design partners' tenant ID isn't in this list, the default settings govern them. MFA claims will not be trusted. When we talk about tenant restrictions, we're answering a question that's completely different from inbound guest trust. This isn't about whether we let external users in, it's about whether our own employees can take their corporate identities and authenticate into someone else's Microsoft 365 tenant. That matters because without this control, a user on a managed device could be phished into granting consent to a malicious third-party tenant, and our conditional access and session controls would never see it. The policy lives inside the same cross-tenant access default object we've been working with, but under a separate tenant restrictions property. The key thing to understand before we run this is that finding a policy configured here does not mean it's actually enforced. It only takes effect when traffic flows through a proxy that injects the restriction header, or through devices enrolled in global secure access. We're about to check what's set, and then we'll talk about what that really means for our tenant. I'm going to pull the cross-tenant access default policy, drill into its tenant restrictions property, and select 3 fields, users and groups, target tenants, and access type. On a tenant that never configured this, expect those to come back empty. That's the default. We start with get MG policy cross-tenant access policy default, which retrieves the default cross-tenant access configuration for the entire tenant. From that object, we access the tenant restrictions property. This is the section that governs outbound authentication, not the inbound trust settings we looked at earlier. We pipe that into select object and pull 3 properties. Users and groups shows whether the restriction is scoped to specific internal users or groups. Target tenants lists which external tenants are explicitly targeted, and access type tells us whether the policy is set to allow or block. If this tenant has never configured tenant restrictions, all 3 will be null or empty. And there it is, users and groups, target tenants, and access type all come back blank. That means no outbound tenant restriction is actually configured in this tenant's default policy. Remember the pitfall here, even if we had a policy set, it would only be enforced for traffic flowing through a proxy that injects the tenant restriction header, or through devices enrolled in global secure access. Without that enforcement mechanism deployed, this is purely a paper policy. For now, our users can authenticate into any external tenant from unmanaged devices with no restriction, something to flag in the compliance report. A compliance review flagged guest accounts from a finished project that still look active. The goal is to find which of those guests are truly stale, meaning they haven't signed in for months, so you can hand off a clean removal list. Created date alone is misleading because an old account could still be in daily use. Instead, we pull the last sign-in timestamp from sign-in activity and compare it against a 90-day threshold. The critical filter is external user state. Only guests who already redeemed their invitation count as stale. Unredeemed invitations aren't abandoned accounts, they're just people who haven't started yet. Watch for the where object logic that combines the state check with the date check, and notice how we handle null sign-in data so we don't accidentally flag every guest. We're about to pull all guest users, filter to only the accepted ones who haven't signed in within 90 days, and export the list to a CSV for the business owner to review. First, we set a threshold date 90 days in the past. Then get NG user grabs every guest in the directory, requesting the properties we need: ID, display name, mail, created date time, external user state, and the full sign-in activity object. The where object block does two things. It keeps only guests whose external user state is accepted, and then checks whether last sign-in date time is either completely missing or older than the threshold. Finally, we select the human-readable fields, rename the nested sign-in property to last sign-in, and export to a CSV with no type information header. The CSV shows 3 guests who passed the filter. Alex Chin accepted the invite months ago but has no recorded sign-in at all. That blank last sign-in field is exactly what we guarded against with the null check. Jordan Lee signed in once back in January and never again, so they're over 90 days stale. Morgan Rivera last signed in last July, well past the threshold. Notice there are no pending acceptance guests here. The external user state filter kept them out and prevented false positives. This is the list to route to the business owner for removal approval. We have automated the complete guest governance workflow, from inviting a new vendor guest with new NG invitation to finding and flagging stale accounts based on sign-in activity. You now have a repeatable script that inventories every guest, reviews cross-tenant trust settings, and exports a list of accounts ready for cleanup. The single most useful thing to carry away is that automation turns a periodic audit into a push-button operation, giving you consistent governance without ever opening the portal.